Hey, 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 hey! How are you, Kwamara?
I
Welcome,
am wonderful,
welcome,
Bernie.
welcome. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Kwamara, the founder of Black Women Matter. Now,
Yes.
Kwamara, a lot of people find me online, but I found you, Kwamara.
You
Yes.
did, yes. You reached out to me, and it feels so good to know that, a lot of times, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Bernie, you're on the ground, you're doing work, and you just don't know who's watching and what kind of impact you're really having. And so when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I was floored, really, so honored. And so thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, but that's what I tell people all the time. You've got to show up every time and you've got to put out there what you're doing because when people bump into you online, they want to be able to understand what does she really stand for? Does anything that this lady does resonate with me? Can we do life or business together? Because that's why we are all on social media. We're looking for people who are like-minded, who can carry on our vision. Now, I've had some incredible things happen recently, and you so kindly backstage just now we were talking, and you asked me about it. But then, as a result of that, I got to find out that you have some stuff going on. So I'm going to just spotlight now. You tell me about what's coming up for you now, Kwamara.
Yeah, there's lots of amazing things that are going on, but one that I'm so proud of and I'm feeling so impactful about is that we are launching our first, what we're calling our Friends and Family Fund. It will be launching on October 15th. We've already confirmed the portfolio of 10 organizations. That's 5 startups and 5 nonprofit organizations. Anyone who knows me knows that I 100% believe in philanthropic work. So this is really exciting on multiple levels. We know that oftentimes when you're an entrepreneur, getting that first infusion of cash is difficult. In fact, I just read an article that, especially as it comes to Black women entrepreneurs, are often dipping into their savings, their 401k to start their businesses more so than any other type of entrepreneur. And so,
honestly, that's interesting you're saying that about the United States because that's one of the things that has been highlighted for us here in the United Kingdom. The Alison Rose Review, I don't know if you know about the CEO of NatWest, one of our major banks here. She was commissioned by the Welsh government, to do a review on entrepreneurship and in particular as it relates to women. And that is one of the things that was discovered how difficult it is for us to get funding here, despite the fact that it is already established fact. They do know, yes, they've written it, so it's a fact that if women were to launch businesses, female founders were to launch at the same pace of men, up to 250 billion pounds would be a value be injected in the UK economy. So not a small amount. So tell me, I really want to hear more about what you got to say about entrepreneurship, women, and funding, and the difficulties that you have over in the United States.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that just generally speaking worldwide. So it's good to see that you can see that mirroring, not good, but you can see that the problems are things that we can solve across the globe. So it's not just isolated in the United States, it's not just isolated in the United Kingdom. And to your point about things being factual, it is also factual that women founded businesses do a 3 times return on investment than their male counterparts, which means that there are actually really solid investment opportunities when women are in lead in those businesses, right? And so it actually doesn't make sense when you look at the numbers as to why women are struggling to get investor dollars, grant dollars, funding, etc. So we are really trying to change that here at Black Women Matter, especially with our Family and Friends Fund. We're going to do cyclical rounds annually, yearly, so that we can infuse cash back into these businesses every year. And every year we're going to select 10 that can do it.
Yes, so before we go any further, let's just acknowledge a man, Jamal Brown. Thank you, Jamal. Peace and blessings to you. And those of you who are listening, please drop in the chat. We're not just talking to each other. We want to talk with you. Introduce, topics. Let's talk. Thank you for shouting out, Jamal. So yes,
Jamal.
Yes, awesome. So to continue now, come on, Kwamara.
Yeah, so I mean that's the importance. That's one aspect that's really important to the fund, is to help folks with that
But where
initial
does the money come from?
seed of funding. So now let's talk about where the money comes from. I'm glad that you asked. It is actually a crowdfund investment platform. And so the other piece, especially here in the United States around wealth building, are figuring out ways that you can invest in businesses. You've heard about venture capitalism. You've heard about hedge funds. We know that that's one way that here in the United States that people build wealth. But oftentimes, to be what they call an accredited investor, you have to have $1 million net worth. You have to be making $200,000+ a year. There are all of these criteria to even get to the point of wealth building. So, but what about people who have disposable income and want to invest back into their community, whether it's through the nonprofit side or whether it's on the for-profit side? So that's great about the crowd fund, your family and friends fund, is that we are allowing people to come in at a max of $10,000 and bring in and contribute their funding and be part of the investment circle. So now this way, they can say, hey, I've invested in these 5 businesses and in these 5 philanthropies that really are important to me, that I'm bringing a social impact. I'm making my money work in the ways that I think are important, right? And so this is the other piece that's so exciting, is that the funds come from the community. It comes from people who say, I've got some disposable income and I want to give back. This is important to the origin story of myself. When I first became an entrepreneur, I started Thompson Education Consulting, which started off as an education consulting company.
By the way, my dear, that's my maiden name as well. You know,
yeah, we talked about that. Whatever related across the pond.
Yes, go on.
But Thompson is such a common name. But
but I prefer to think sister.
I like to believe that we got sister love, so it's all beautiful, man. I love it. But what's awesome about that Thompson Education Consulting is that we became pretty successful, and I had disposable income. And with that disposable income, I invested back into the community, giving out microloans, micro grants to Black-owned businesses across the United States. And so then I wanted to afford that opportunity to other folks. It took me a little while to structure the fund, but now we're ready to go. It will be launching later on this month in 2 weeks. So please look out. Follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Instagram, and so you can find out all the ways that you can get involved if you have that disposable income and you're looking for ways to diversify your investment portfolio.
You know what I love about what you said there, Kwamara? You said, I've just felt I was doing this, I was giving back, and I felt I just needed to afford this opportunity to others. Now, what that statement tells me is that you understand the power of giving. You understand the opportunity and the blessing that lies in being the one that provides that investment, that supports that business. And so, that resonates with me 100%, because I am about understanding that, yes, we might be doing things, but we might be great doing things, but we are powerful when we are bringing others and we are empowering and ennobling others, not just going for ourselves. So I love that and that platform. But I want to kind of just take us back, Kwamara, because people don't know about you and even why it is that your business is called I am a Black woman matter, and your mantra is I'm a Black woman, yes, I matter. So give me a little bit about you, because I'm one of those people I have actually confessed that growing up in the Caribbean, I didn't really even understand the struggles of what happened with my counterparts in the United States, and I really couldn't understand why it is that you talk so much about race. It's like okay, get over yourself. But unless and until you walk into another man's shoes, To Kill a Mockingbird, that book, Atticus Finch said that unless you put on somebody's shoes and walk around it a while, you'll not understand them. So tell me, why Kwamara? Because I see that you're a woman that has accomplished a lot, but I see a sweet, gentle spirit in you. Yet your what you're saying is so strong, is so powerful, and so forceful. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. So obviously the statement, I'm a Black woman, yes, I matter, is factual, right? I am a Black woman and I matter as a human being.
Mm.
The reason why the statement is so powerful is because it's simple and it's true. And there's nothing you can say that's not incorrect about that. You cannot argue with me about whether or not I matter as a human being. But the reason I make this statement is, especially here in the United States, is that Black women are oftentimes invisible. And our lives as Black people, period, also always comes secondary to our white counterparts. And we see that in so many different ways. We see that in the judicial system. We see that in the educational system. We see that in the opportunities that are afforded to us. We see that in the ways that children are given grace. So for example, when I spent a lot of time in education, I used to be a high school English teacher for 10 years. So I know a lot about the work of education, the adultification of Black youth in particular. So if we talk about that, for example, our children are not allowed to have a childhood. What does that mean? It means that like at ages 5, I've seen this at ages 5, a 5-year-old will have a little normal tantrum as 5-year-olds do. When it's a white child, oh, okay, we understand kids will be kids, let's give them a timeout. Oftentimes when it's a Black child, especially in pre-K, you will see actual news articles of those children being handcuffed by police officers. It's the adultification of that child. How are you afraid of a 5-year-old? And if you are afraid of a 5-year-old Black child, why are you there in the classroom teaching them? How can you educate someone that you're afraid of?
These are the things that we are unaware of. I did not know that, and I think I know a lot of things that go on in the United States. These things do not happen here, and knock wood, and I hope it doesn't start happening, because we are, I believe, on the path to making it better, not to watch it go worse. Because there's so many of us that are getting involved in this, and there's so much support. I can speak for Wales, I can speak for the United Kingdom in general, but not with that much, credibility. The credibility that I can speak of Wales, which is where I live. And I know that in the same country, Wales, we have bias, we have racism, and so on. However, we have an even stronger, I believe, at this moment, which is why we are grasping it, which is why the diversity conference, and there are so many other communities and other organizations that have gone ahead of me that have been doing the work, and we are now taking advantage of the fact that people really want to see the change happen. So that's not happening here. Little 5-year-old kids are not being adultified as you gave that example. No, not at all. But there are challenges, and even my white counterparts here will tell me themselves of things that they see that they know is not right. Yes, which is a good sign to see that people are actually trying to do their best. But I find that if in the United States that is happening now, it seems like it's taking a step backwards, not getting better, because that didn't used to happen, or did it?
Well, I think it did, but I think that social media, which is why technology is so important. I am also spending part of this time this week at a global conference that's happening in Fort Lauderdale, and there are representation from every single continent across the globe there about how we can come together as an entire global ecosystem to make everyone's life on Earth better, period.
Yes.
Okay? And it's absolutely beautiful to see that work, and everyone does it with a different lens. But the point is, we can all come together. There's enough resources on this planet that no one has to be starving, no one needs to be homeless, no one needs to be struggling. Everyone should have the best quality of life that they can possibly live, and it should be sustainable, and we should all be happy. So when you say like, are we taking a step back? So about the technology and the global piece is why social media is so important, because now in a lot of ways, voices that hadn't historically been heard are now being able to be heard, are now being able to be elevated. And what you're seeing is a power dynamic and a restructuring of the way that we want the world to look and feel like, which is great about the next generation, because they are clear that what is happening right now is not what they want for the future. And how can we change that? The technology, like right now, right? You're in Wales, I'm here in Miami, Florida. Technology has allowed us to come together and bridge these divides. So we're no longer worried about borders. We're no longer worried about passport. We no longer are asking permission to talk to other people who are like-minded or who I want to learn from, whose experiences I want to validate. I don't need that. I just need this. I just need my computer. I just need my cell phone. The technology is so important into the globalization of the work that we are trying to do. And those of us who are human-centered and human-centric. So yeah, I talk a lot about promoting Black women, but ultimately for me, it's about promoting humanity first and foremost.
Have you been? Did you read my book? Have you been? Did you attend the conference? Because that's what I have been on about. You know, that's what we say. But you say that's what I'm on about. The thing is, it's not just okay. Gosh, I'm a Black woman. You're a Black woman. So we're going to mention race at some point. We can't get away from it. That's who we are, and we invite people to see our color. You know, I was interviewed recently by the premier glossy magazine here in Wales for Cardiff, and they we're dealing with the hard topic now of race because it's Black History Month, so everybody tries to at least deal with it once a month. For us here, though, I must commend that we have Black History Wales 365, so it's all around, not just about 1 day, 1 month, right? And the important thing is this: what we've got to do is understand that as human beings, we just love to separate ourselves. It's human. We love to find a way to see how can we be better than, how can we this, how can we get, and so we have to go to change in hearts and minds. And us as Black people amongst ourselves need to treat each other better. In the white context, we need to treat each other better. But it still does not negate the fact that some of us are still a lot less equal than others. So it's bridging the divide between race, ethnicity, socioeconomic divides, gender divides, and all of that. But at the end of the day, is understanding. God, my goodness, can we just be kind? Can we just consider?
Kind, empathy, love. I mean, you said the word love, and love is so important to me. I say to lots of people, hey, I love you. And it doesn't mean that like I know you and I'm in love with you. No, I love you because you're a human being and you're worthy of love, period, because you're a human person that matters in this world. One of my most favorite poems is by a man named John Donne about the bell tolls, right? The bell tolls for thee. And the reason I love that poem is because it literally says, no man is an island, when any person dies, we are all less than because we are human beings on this earth. And I'm paraphrasing, but you guys can go. It's a really sweet, short poem. But that's literally one of the things that drives my decision-making process, that drives me. It's something that has always spoken to me. How can we be human forward? How can we be human-centric? The reason why I call out the Blackness of who I am and the yes and the matter part is because people have tried to dehumanize.
That was what I was going to be asked. So you answer my question before I ask. Let me spotlight you for that one, girl. Let me spotlight you. I need you to say this on the spotlight, because I need you to tell me why it is you felt the need to actually say it.
So I say it because there's a dehumanization of Black bodies. And I think that's true actually globally, just by virtue of the slave trade, the colonization and the slave trade. You could see that they saw Black bodies as commodity. So already there's a history of dehumanization of a human being. And so the reason why I say that is because I want to be clear that we are humans and we matter, and we have to say it, and we have to say it out loud. We have to say it proudly. We have to say things like, I'm a Black person and I'm beautiful, because people will tell us that our darker skin and our curly hair and our thicker lips and our wider noses and our curvy bodies are not beauty standards. Well, we know that's not true. We know that's not true. And the reason I know it's not true is because I can tell you how many times people talk to me about being tan. Oh, Kwamara, I'm almost as tan as you are. They're going out in the sun. They're getting cosmetic surgeries. They're getting lip fillers. So obviously, they actually do find beauty in our natural features.
Yeah,
but they don't tell us that they do. And so we need to counterbalance that narrative. And that's what this statement is about. It's about always looking in the mirror and counterbalancing the negative stereotypes that you that you infuse that you don't even know that like are coming through your body through osmosis, right? But when we say we are our own worst critics, a lot of that is actually outside voices that have become internal dialogue. And you have to now figure out what are the positive things that I can say to myself and counterbalance those negative. I was just talking to a bunch of students at the University of Miami, and I talked a lot about self-love. This statement for me is a bold, active statement of self-love for myself and every Black woman.
And I respect that 100%. But I've got to say that one of the things that I've discovered in my own journey, and as a Black woman, I am allowed to say it without anybody sowing, well, I hope without anybody stoning me, is that sometimes we actually don't take into account when in the whole piece of understanding that we are Black, we are women, we need to be valued, we have space, we belong here. We as a Black woman could also fall in the trap of not realizing what maybe an overweight white woman is going through, what a ginger white woman is going through. Now, I don't know what you see in this US, but I can tell you what I see here. What a white woman who, or a man who comes from certain parts, certain regions in the UK, I can only speak, of course, and in Wales, how they feel working alongside other same white people. And I have seen, and I've done exercises when I do my training, I go into companies and I train on allyship as one of the elements of diversity inclusion that I train on. And there's a particular exercise that I do about privilege, and I ask them to go through it. And more often than not, with a multiplicity of a mixture of people, the amount of white people that are standing who will say they can only out of 8 or 10 points of privilege that I've shown, which when you look at it, you realize, oh my God, yes, this is I took this for granted, but this is actually a privilege. And maybe just 1 or 2 they can have elements. And you have some Black people standing who could tick off 6 or 7 of those privilege elements. And so that is why I say in my book, it took me almost half an hour to plug it, but here it is, the Master in Diversity. Yeah, we go together, not at all. I am not ashamed. I unashamedly plug it. Why? Because it has truths, it has facts, it has things that can help us to heal, extend our way of thinking, change our mindsets, and bring us together, right? As humans and as people that work together. And the truth of the matter is, Kwamara, I know that there is a reason people say, why is she on about I'm a Black woman, she matters? What, don't white people matter? Yes. But every one of us is here with a mission and a message. And your mission and your message is no less important than my mission and my message is more about listening. It's a human thing here, right? Don't forget these ones. Don't forget these men. Don't forget these whatever. I believe that that's my mission, because that's to do with how I was brought up. How I was brought up and what was my challenge when I was growing up. I didn't have the Black-white thing. I had more of the status thing. And I was the person who wanted to go, I would just achieve everything because I was insecure. I didn't think I would be heard because of my family dynamic. I wasn't heard as a child, and I grew up thinking, well, if I were to just be best, I'll be heard, and seen. So my thing was to step on everybody's head and leave them in my dust until I got my own leveling experience. You can watch my TED Talk, you'll find out about that. And so I learned, my journey took me to learning other people matter, looking at all various things and to work in that realm to bring people together. So we each have our mission. And so I'm not going to say, why is Kwamara on about? And I'm not, no, we need to have all the voices because all the voices matter.
Yes, it's true, right? So my statement doesn't negate anybody's humanity. And that's the point. I want to be clear that that statement doesn't negate anybody else's humanity. And that's the point. And to your point, there are many people. I wear this shirt around. There are definitely 100% people who are, what do you mean? What does your shirt mean? And I'm like, and I make them read it. And I say, am I a Black woman? And they'll say, yes. And then I say, do you think I matter? They're like, yes. So I'm like, okay, so now talk to me again. What's your issue with the statement? And then they have nothing to say, because But also here in the US, it is inherent that certain people matter and certain people don't, which is why you don't actually have to say it, because it is inherent as the norm. It is the norm that is the case. Now, to your point, we're talking a lot about intersectionality. There are obviously those that are on a privileged spectrum. Yes. Some people who are more privileged than others. You've got socioeconomic, you've got the educational side, you've got whose norms are decided in values in society, who sex is, so you can think about the LGBTQIA community. So there obviously a spectrum of privilege and intersectionality that we are talking about. And I can't speak to everyone's journey. What I can speak to knowledgeably is about the Black woman journey. And so therefore, that's what I'm talking about. But that doesn't mean that Kwamara doesn't have friends across economic, socioeconomic, ethnic, racial, etc. lines. We are always about creating economic ecosystems of collaboration and empowerment. And so we do that with anyone who wants to be a true, and this is the most important piece, a true ally. And people are like, what does true allyship mean? Well, to me, allyship is an action.
Let me spotlight you to tell them that one. Come on, hang on. Go.
Well, to me, allyship is an action. What are you actually doing to show that you're an ally? And I don't mean like you're going back into society and you're like, I am Captain Save. You're like, you've got a great white savior complex. That's not helpful. We're talking about, what do you actually do? Are you listening to the community and trying to figure out, can I use my privilege in a way to swing back to folks? I'm a privileged Black woman. Let me be clear. Like I grew up, in private school. I grew up going to some of the best colleges. My network, my family network is one that is intact. My parents are still married. They've laid an amazing foundation. I am close to so many of my family members across the United States. I see them a lot. We talk, we're in group chats. I understand that even from a foundational perspective, I have a lot of privilege. But what do I do with that privilege? I take that privilege and I give and I open up my resources to folks who don't know what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, so they can think about what can they do as they're thinking about building their own foundations, whether that foundation is a family foundation, whether it's a financial, spiritual, wealth, emotional. So what does allyship actually look like? And you can't declare yourself an ally. Let me be clear. Someone should declare it for this person. I would tell you, this person right here, he or she does X, Y, Z. That person is an ally.
Listen, man, 100%, Kwamara, because it has been proven, the statistics reports are there to prove it, and it happens every time. Your people are saying, I've been a good ally. I am to Latin American people. I'm being a good ally to Black people. I'm being a good ally to the people from certain things. And then the people that are saying they're a good ally to are saying, well,
yeah, who are you? I'm sorry. What are you doing?
When was the last time you actually spoke to us and asked us what we thought about something? When was the last time you actually tried to encourage us, advocate for us to get certain positions? When was the last time you took some time to educate yourselves on what matters to us and what makes us feel better, what makes us feel like absolutely rubbish? When was the last time you called out an injustice when you saw it against us? Ally?
Exactly. And then you start to see, where is allyship real? Because if it affects you in a certain way. So let's do the example of being at work and you see something that was a microaggression, for example. And man, that was like awful. I really should have stood up. I really should have said X, Y, Z. But you were afraid to lose your job, or you were afraid to lose your standing, or you were afraid to do X, Y, Z. You're not an ally, and that's okay, and that's fine. But just be clear, you can't put yourself in that, because part of it has to be sacrificial. So I don't want to say the word suffer, because it's not really what I want. It's that sometimes we have to give to let others shine, to let others know, like, no, you're not crazy. I saw what happened to you, and I've got your back. And I've got your back.
When you have a situation, Kwamara, you know what it is? It is that allyship does not obtain in that business culture. Because if somebody's going to see it and is afraid, the use of the term being afraid of loss implies that the people that with the power and the influence are the perpetrators. And so the people with the power and in the influence will punish the person who tries to call them to account. So there, if you're in a work situation where you feel afraid to point something out, it's telling you that allyship does not rule in that organization. It means that the organization is in trouble. So if you are the manager, then you probably need to ask yourself, how am I actually managing it? And maybe have conversations with your peer group to see, can we change things? It could go to board level. I don't know. To be honest, if you're in a work situation and you're afraid, you're in the wrong place. You've got to find a way. There must be a way in workplaces that you can have 360 feedback. There must be a way. And I know that there are here in the United Kingdom, there's legislation that there's certain things that need to happen. I know some people also just put together the policies and shove them in their drawers. But I must say that I have been and continue to be asked to go in and help to support, to get fair work culture to start to maintain and to be monitored in organizations. But we have a far way to go. But, one of the reasons I invited you on to this LinkedIn Live, Kwamara, was that I could see that you were somebody who could actually answer the questions that you're answering quite effectively, because a lot of people don't want to talk about Black women matter, Black lives matter. They don't want to hear about it. They assume that anybody who has that kind of mantra is a warrior, is a keyboard warrior, or you know what I mean. They have no real rhyme or reason to what they are talking about. And I knew that you could come on this platform, because I'm not one who likes to come on and I don't beat anybody over the head. My policy is, one of my good friends, Cody Gapare, which you will meet. She's fantastic. Her stock phrase is, get off the pulpit and pull up a chair.
I love it.
Conversations, get off the soapbox, pull up a chair, right? So I knew you would, that's who you are. And I really believe, and I hope that those who might be watching now, and those who are watching afterwards, realize that yes, it might seem in your face, but sometimes you've got to say it. It's not because you're trying to pick a fight. It's actually because you want to create change and you want to be heard and you want to help and educate people as to the reason that some of us still have to say, I am a Black woman and yes, I matter.
Yeah, and I love what your friend said, get off the pulpit and put up a chair. That's literally what has made my business successful, has helped me to create high productive teams and help other organizations create high productive teams. I've actually won national awards for the effectiveness of what my team can accomplish and like how great they feel within the culture. And that's because I believe in shared leadership. Like, I'm the founder, I'm manager, I'm director, I'm this, I'm that, whatever. That's a title related to like my salary and how much money I whatever. But in terms of the day to day, it actually doesn't mean anything. I hate even saying like my employees, like I'm like my colleague, my coworker, my person who works with me. Like, I don't even like to it feels disingenuous to say those things, right? Like, we are working together in service. And title really doesn't mean much to me. I really 100% believe in shared leadership. I'm often asked, what does it mean to be a leader? And I tell people all the time, everybody's a leader. You lead your own life. If life is just happening to you, I need you to pause and figure out how you can start being the leader of your life. We all have the ability to lead our life. And I'm talking about even children. Children decide, I have a niece and nephew who are 4 and going on 6 years old. And I've been fascinated watching them grow and decide like who their personalities are, what it is they want, what it is they like, what they want to wear. I mean, they're making decisions to say, this is how I'm going to present into the world. So innately, we were born as human beings to be leaders of who we are.
Exactly. First of all, you've got to know who you are. Unless you know who you are, understand truly who you are, then you will not be able to intentionally lead who you are. So what you end up doing is leading your way around other people's opinions. But when you know yourself and you embrace what I call your U-print, because we all of us have one of those wherever we go, we leave it behind, whether by default or on purpose. Right? We're imprinting our U-print on the world. Yeah, it's unique, just like our fingerprint and our footprint, right? But when we know who we are, and that is by introspection, retrospection, we kind of harness the knowledge of what moves us, what drives us, what are our core values, what we're not about to take, what we're going to take, where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are. And when we actually create an understanding of that, an authentic understanding of that, then we then are freed from life's bullies. And the first one, as I said, is the bully of other people's opinions. Then you're able to chart your path and leave behind a refreshing impact on the world. When we don't know who we are, then we go bumbling around, hurting each other, jumping from one person's opinion to the other, right? Doing things that we don't even understand why, and then defending it because we have to.
Yep.
With no sense whatsoever.
It's all reactionary, right? And
go on.
You want to live in a reactionary state. Reactionary is like a stressful state of being. And you can see like what's happening even in the pandemic. We're seeing like a mental health crisis, and it's actually a global mental health crisis, depression, etc. But I firmly believe, to your point, it's because most people are reactionary. Most people don't know who they are. And when you are in a reactionary state, that's actually a state of trauma. It's a state of stress that's in your body. And when you have stress that you hold in your body breaks down, like period. You know, like it just does. The brain doesn't function as well. Your vital organs don't function as well. Your heart is pumping more. So you get stuff like high blood pressure. I mean, there's just like all things that are going on. Like I love that there is now an emphasis on mental health awareness, but I do think a lot of that is, to your point about people are lost and don't know exactly who they are, which is why I start with yourself. Start thinking about how you can be a leader. Who are you? Start taking out that negative. Start saying things to yourself that are beautiful, even when you make a mistake. Listen, we're human beings. We're all going to make mistakes.
I'll give yourself permission to make mistakes, man. Come on.
Right. Have some grace. Have some empathy. Have grace and empathy for yourself, because how can you have that for anybody else?
I was about to say, the people who you see are harshest than others is because they don't give themselves a break. So how are they going to give you a break?
Yeah.
We tend to treat people the way we treat ourselves, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly 100%.
right.
100%.
So if we are hard on ourselves, never forgive ourselves, always asking ourselves, why couldn't you do more? Why didn't you do better? Instead of saying, wow, you know, I got this one. Okay, I mightn't have gotten that one, but next time I'll have a go. No, you know, how are you going to be a good manager? How are you going to be a good leader? How are you going to be a person who understands that other person, because of what might be going on in their lives, just didn't show up in their full form today? That doesn't mean that there is no hope for that person. It means ask that person, how can I help? So when we are not showing up in our full form, we need to ask ourselves the question. How many of us talk to ourselves? I talk to myself all the time. You ask yourself, all right, come on now, Bernie. All right, so what's going on? Why are you feeling nothing's wrong? The sun is shining. Everything is good. Why are you feeling down? Huh?
What's it? I talk to myself all the time.
Sometimes what is that? And then you remember, oh, there's a little thing that was deposited in the back, and I put it in the back of my mind, and it's just go tap, tap, tapping. So we've got to manage. How many of us can relate to that? And you're like, oh, it's that thing. You know, let me deal with this thing now. Off you go. Yes.
I think it's a good point that you say about having a dialogue in your head. And I think, you know, I don't know how it was in the UK, but when I was growing up, if you were seen talking to yourself or whatever, people, oh, man, you're crazy. But actually, it's a really healthy thing, depending on the things that you talk about yourself too, and having that dialogue. And then I also read that only 50% of people in the world actually talk to themselves. So I'm a little concerned. I'm like, what else is, if you don't have running dialogue in your head, what are you thinking about? I would love to talk to somebody who doesn't have running thoughts in their head, because I want to know, like, you know, what are you thinking on a daily basis if you don't have those thoughts? Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but I saw Alex. Hey, Alex. He said most people are product of their environment and have not broken free. And I want to
Oh
talk
yeah, let me show that. Let me show that.
because
yes, thanks for that, Alex.
I talk about freedom a lot. It's actually something that I 100%, and it's like, Kumar, what do you mean? Everybody believes in freedom, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that all people believe in freedom, and I'm talking about freedom of thought, freedom to be who you are,
no, they don't.
living a life that you're like, you know what, like I'm living my most authentic self. But to Alex's point, it's not easy. We are products of our environment. We have trauma that might be coming down generationally. We might be grown up in situations where even our own parents or our community couldn't, were broken themselves. And so, like, how can a broken generation have a healed generation? You can't really, right? So, like, it's kind of like, how do you do these things? And that's why oftentimes I do start saying, let's start talking about like positivity. Let's start talking about humanity. A lot of people think, oh, Kumar, you're so woo-woo. You live like in the utopia, but you can't. You have to start somewhere. Yes. Even if it's not like who you are. You know, Jay-Z is probably one of my favorite rappers. I'm gonna give a little shout out to Jay-Z, but he's always a fan of, listen, fake it till you make it. You know, there is a way of you want to be a wealthy rapper. So back in the day, he pretended that he was a wealthy rapper. Then he started his business, and then blah blah blah. And now you can see how it's manifested to who he is today.
Fake it till you make it, Kwamara. Is simply talking about is positive affirmations.
It's positive,
right? And it's acting in faith. It says, faith without works is dead. That goes back to the Bible, back to the Biblia. Yes. So what does faith without works mean? It means. Faith with works means you act as if the thing you're asking for is there. That's fake it if you make it. Till you make it.
Exactly.
Fake it till you make it.
That's what you do. You walk in the purpose that you know that you were brought into. And if you can't figure out what that purpose is, start journaling, start quieting media, turn off the TV and start thinking about what it is that I am brought here on this earth for.
Alex, what do you mean by genetics and geography? You wanna expand on that?
I will listen a little bit more about. I saw that comment. I was like, I wonder what he's reacting to. But but you know, to his point, I'm sure that's about like, you know, a little bit about the genetics that you have. Are you prone to disposition? Geography could be just any sort of like the community. It can be based off of socioeconomic, and literally could be geography. The difference between being in the United States versus being on the African continent or in the UK or in the Caribbean. You know, I have a lot of friends who are immigrants, first generation immigrants, who basically were like, I've never had to think about what it meant to be Black because I came from countries where everyone was Black. Yeah. Now, they also might have come from countries that had a lot of socioeconomic, to your point, class, status, etc. That's a problem. Yeah. But so like they never had to say things like my Black is beautiful because they just knew that it was, because they were surrounded by Blackness, beauty, and that was a beautiful standard. But here in the US, we were not. We're the minority, right? Like we didn't see that as our.
That's what I didn't understand, Kwamara. When I was growing up in the Caribbean, and you know, for me, it was like par for the course. The diversity was par for the course. My teachers would come to school, one with an Indian sari because she's coming straight out of India, another one in an African dress, the other one with every Syrian, everybody. Even in my class, we had proper Chinese from China. I don't know how I was so lucky to be such a diverse. I think God was preparing me for all of what I'm doing now. Honestly, diversity was par for the course. So I didn't even think about it. Color, we didn't even think about it. As you say, it was more like socioeconomic. Okay, if your parents were this and you had so much money, then you will have the divide. If you're pretty, if you know those do that. That is why I say as well, humans, you're going to try to divide one way or the other. But certainly, I didn't think that there would be any kind of negative impact because of my color, or even because of my gender, to be honest. You know, I didn't have that. So I had to learn that my experience is not everybody's experience. And so I cannot just dismiss other people's points of view and attitudes, and even the bad attitudes, you know, as a matter of course, and just say, oh, away with you. I have to try to understand why. What caused that? And how can I help to be a part of helping you to see differently?
And to see different. And so that's why, Black Women Matter is a global movement, because we are not a monolith. We all have different journeys and experiences that we had that make up the African diaspora, which is beautiful.
Yes.
Right. To me, diversity is gorgeous. Diversity of thought, diversity of spirit, of mind, of skin color, of features, of hair texture. All of it is so beautiful. I mean, when I look in my family, from, we have all different types, and I think this is true for most Black folk. We have so many different shades that are represented in our families, and it's just like a beautiful rainbow. It's like, oh my God, look at all these beautiful hues that we have. And so there is, so when Black Women Matter formed, obviously I was bringing it from a US perspective, but because of the power of the internet, I started making a lot of friends in the global diasporic. They were like, we also have issues that we would like to talk about from our point of view. And so we started coming together and having global conversations. What are the things that are kind of like the same type of experiences, and what are the things that are different that we can learn from each other? And it blew my mind. I have a friend from South Africa, and we know South Africa, we all know, had apartheid up until the 1980s, I believe. I can't remember exactly when it was eradicated. I use this term very loosely because, 40 years ago, and people are still talking along those lines. But anyway, so a Black woman from South Africa said to me, I did not understand the lack of pride and beauty that Black people were missing in the United States until I came here. And she said, It was a rough transition. And I said to myself, it was a rough transition, and you coming from South Africa, so I think that says something, because she was like, but she was like, the power was concentrated with white folks. Yeah, that's true. But in my day to day, I saw people who looked like me all the time, and that just that subliminal message, powerful. And that's why in the United States, we have to make statements, bold statements, so that we can say to each other, we see each other, we need to see each other, so that we can understand the beauty of who we are. We understand the beauty of everybody else because everybody else has been thrown in our face. Now we need to find that internal beauty, that internal strength, that internal positivity. And so that's what really the work of Black Women Matter is about.
Absolutely. And I was in one of my recent interviews, I actually spoke about the whole matter of those people who, trying to be kind, will say to me, oh, I don't see color. I feel like, when you see me and you don't see color, you don't see me.
Then you don't see the beauty of my skin. You don't see me.
You need to see, when you see my color, you see my history, you see my network, you see the challenges, you see my strength, because I'm here standing toe to toe with you, not with the same kind of challenges coming up to where you go, and then again, hear me, because I've also learned not to just across the board say, oh, white people don't have challenges and they don't have struggles getting jobs and everything, because I've got to find out as well that they are there. But I'm just saying, when you say you don't see color and you see me, then you don't really see me. And I know they're trying to be kind and they're trying to say, listen, I just see you as a human being, but I want them to see color, because when they see color, then they will ask questions. They will say, okay, so tell me what it was like growing up. Tell me what it was like with this. What are your challenges? We can really start talking woman to woman. When you see my color, right, and we connect on the fact that you see my color and say, I see yours, then we can become two women talking. Because we know see each other. We see each other because we know we're two women talking now. What's your female experience there as the Black woman? What's yours as a white woman? We now become, but unless and until you see each other's colors and differences, we really can't then connect. That's my feeling.
And also, to be honest, I think there's a subliminal message there. And maybe it's not that subliminal or that subtle, which is, I don't see color on you because you're not like what I think about as Black people.
Oh, I've got that as well.
And so that happens to me a lot. And that's that weird, like, oh, you're an Oreo, you know, Kwamara, you're black on the outside, white on the inside. I mean, why? Because I quote unquote speak educate. I mean, why is it being smart and sounding educated, quote unquote, white thing? So
when it hurts most, no, Kwamara, it's when you get it from your own black people.
Well, because again, and this is the part that we have to understand about psychology and trauma. And I think we don't give ourselves grace to understand that, like, our ancestors, for the most part, were ripped away. And people are like, oh, why do you keep going back to slavery? Well, it's important. That's why. Because people were ripped away from what they knew, from their community, from being dialect, treated like cattle, put in chains, enslaved or whatever. I don't know if anyone has ever had their freedom taken away just for a few minutes, or you've been stopped by the police, like when you're just like, you get a speeding ticket or whatever the case may be. There's an anxiety there. So imagine that like 10,000 fold. Then you're taken across and you have to learn a new language. You're told your name is not your name. So now, like, you don't know who you are. And there's no one from that you know who you can speak to in your native dialect. It's like the Tower of Babylon, and you're trying to like figure things out. Yeah. And you come up with survival mechanisms and coping mechanisms that you then transfer those behaviors and those feelings to the next generation, and then the generation after that, and then the generation after that, explicitly and implicitly. When you think about the womb, everything that a mother does while a fetus is growing directly affects that child, affects the way the fetus is being born. So if a mother is stressed, the baby's going to be stressed. Yeah. If the mother is nice and relaxed, she could read and she can listen to music and she's happy, the baby's going to be happy. We know that is scientifically the case. So now think about the amount of babies that were born into slavery to women who are stressed out, who then, so they can all of
transfers of trauma. We have about 9 minutes left, so we're going to try to
I'll wrap it up in a second, but I just want to say, so that racial trauma, that generational trauma still exists today. That's the part that I want us to like continue to remember. So we have inherited trauma. The reason I bring that up though is because there's inherited trauma, because you're a survivalist, oftentimes assimilation is the best way to survive. So meaning you are like, I need to be more like the power, like the people who are humanized. I need to be more like the people who have the privilege. And that can look like distancing yourself from your own people. And it can look like making fun of people who are XYZ. And it can look like division. But it is a survival mechanism that has been passed down. And what we have to do is change things so that we understand the beauty of who we are. So anyway, I'll just say that. But that's why you have division so oftentimes one of the reasons why you have division so oftentimes within our community.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I see what you're saying. I do agree 100% with the trauma, transference of trauma, and how it becomes generational. There's no question about that. And nobody really takes that into account, when we look at the blacks all over the world. Yes. But the thing about the Oreo, I take a personal offense to that. And I also think that this Oreo labeling is not really given to people because they necessarily try to mimic the civilized or mimic the whites. I think what it does is the ones who see it as being Oreo are the ones who are insulting our race more than anyone else. Because what you are telling me is that being dignified, being educated, being cultured, yes, and being ambitious is not mine. So when I'm doing that, I'm being white. I take offense to that.
Right. No, and you should. Because that is
I'm not mimicking anyone. No, really, I am being a decent, ambitious, cultured human being because I was brought up properly by my parents. I was educated. I decided to educate myself, and I decided to be the best version of myself, not mimicking a white person. So when you, as my black brother or sister, accuse me of being an Oreo because I comport myself in this way, you, my black brother and sister, are actually, you are insulting us.
Okay, so I totally agree. And I'm not, this is not about whether I think that it's right for people to say
Not
that.
you I'm talking about, I'm talking about the other people that
Here's what I will say. Why is it? And this is why we have to be clear.
Yeah.
Speaking well, quote unquote, and I keep putting this in quotation marks because I think there are respectability politics. I don't think that there has to be, and this is about what I was talking about whose value systems are deciding what is considered cultured and what is not considered cultured, right? So if someone feels comfortable all the time speaking in Ebonics, to me, like, you speak Ebonics and you speak proper English, you're bilingual. You're speaking 2 languages. And I honor that. And that's cultural. And that's the part where I'm trying to get us to. We should not be equating a particular way of being with a particular race or ethnicity. It is who you are, it is your culture, and that's what you want to do. That's great. And you shouldn't have to, and this is my other part, you shouldn't have to speak a certain type of way to be successful. This is the part that I want to break down. You shouldn't have to speak a certain type of way in order to be considered intelligent. You shouldn't have to wear certain type of clothes. You shouldn't have to have your hairstyle a certain type of way. You shouldn't have to do X, Y, Z to be considered a respectable, quote unquote, respectable, successful person in society. So what I want to do is really break down those thought processes and stop evaluating one way of being over another.
Jamal says 100%. Boom. Boom, boom.
That's all, that's what I wanted to say. Oh man, Bernie, I had such a good time. We could continue talking. I know
we need a part 2 of this. I was just saying this needs a part 2, and I have a couple of people I want to bring in on the next part. This is awesome. Listen, we have about 4 minutes left, and I usually ask my guest to say the last word and say what it is that you want your audience to take away. Just one thing that if they forget everything you've said, you don't want them to forget this one thing. Go.
It's going to be humanity first. Treat everyone like a human being, period, including yourself.
Yeah. So humanity first. Go on, repeat that. I've spotlighted.
Humanity first. Treat everyone like a human being, including yourself first. So self-love, it all starts with self-love, but then extend that to your fellow human and just love on human beings. To me, it's all, if everyone treated everyone like they were the human beings that we are and we deserve to be, this world would be such a better place. Such a better place.
Awesome. Yes. Jamal says yes to part 2. We definitely have to have a part 2. 100%. This needs a part 2. Yes. Guys, thank you so much, Kwamara. And we're going to be getting together in the United Kingdom next year. Woo, 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 woo. You guys the storm in London. Come to part 2 when you're about that. We'll get you coming back. Get you guys out. I'm gonna put out when the next one's gonna be, and I would like somebody I have in mind. I'd love to join us because I think this is incredible. It's amazing when you have the two two worlds talking about the same thing from the different perspectives of what we actually experience, our own, you and I, our own lived experiences, yes, our own work experiences, and then what goes on in our worlds. Am I invited, Alex? Well, you never know, Alex. Should we invite you, Alex? Awesome. Absolutely, you are. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. And it's all about mastering diversity, and essentially it's mastering change. An important change is the change of the mind. Yes. It's not my phrase, but it says the mind of man once expanded will not assume its original position. So we are in a mind expansion business. We're in changing hearts and minds. We are in doing our bit. Yes. In our space, in our time. That's all we can do. because we are Black women and we matter.
I love it, Bertie. Oh my God, this has been beautiful. I can't wait till next time. And we are going to tear London up next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't go anywhere, guys. Kwamara, you don't go anywhere. All right, guys. Oh yes. Alex says transformation. Yeah, baby. That's how we roll. All about transformation, mind expansion. We doing it. Awesome. See you soon. Watch your space about I find about part 2. Lots of love, guys. Stay safe.
Bye. Peace, everyone.